Hello, Oslo, and welcome to this friendly tour behind the scenes of the development community. I am here to dish out some advice because advice is cheap. It isn't, though, really, is it? Somebody paid good money for you to be here today, and hopefully you will get your money's worth in the next session, probably. But for now, let's take a quick waltz together through your career, starting at the beginning with your CV, moving on to the interview, and ending with the rest of your professional life. We have 10 to 15 minutes. That ought to be plenty. I once read some dating advice about how you would appear smarter and more modern and stylish if you didn't have a bunch of books laying around now that you can just read everything digitally. I assume they meant something like this, and I suppose that would work if you wanted to catch a designer. It seems like hard work to me, though, and obviously you can't give advice on bait without knowing what fish you're going for. This is a close-up of my bait. Note the asterisks in original French, my little Tintin figurines. Obviously, it's not for everyone, but neither am I, probably. And it's the same with the CV. Reread and read the advert, modify the CV and the application, and make the focus on what you know they're looking for, trying to match your experience with their requirements. For example, I don't know if a scented CV would work everywhere, but I'm sure it would work wonders for the right position. In ancient times, and this is the honest-to-God result I got when image Googling that, it was the application or the cover letter you tailored for the position. Today, I would suggest spending more time on the CV and just take enough time on the application to make it clear that you're interested in this particular company and position and not just any old job in the biz. If you are unsure, get someone to look at the spelling and grammar. Some people are known to throw away a perfectly good CV the second they spot a hyphenating error. Me, myself, I work with enough foreigners and people with dyslexia to know that this is not how you measure intelligence. But hey, it might not be me you're applying to, so just make sure. If you're being contacted by a recruiter, do not make the mistake to think that being headhunted means that the job is in the bag. You're still expected to impress any number of people before getting an actual offer, so keep focused and put in the hours right from the start. Also, what's the deal with men posing with fish on dating apps? Anybody here done that? Don't do that. Just don't. So, congrats. You made it to the interview, and that made it to the floor. First off, it's okay to be nervous. You're interviewing for a position in IT. Nobody's expecting you to be charming. Actually, I'm not sure they would like it if you were. I've not been on many dates in my life, and fun fact, never actually realized I was on one until much later. But I have a feeling it's a lot like job interviews, and I have been to a ton of those. In dating, as in interviews, don't tell lies. Getting caught in a lie by somebody you care about is not nice. However, feel free to do a little political spin. If you took a year off to nurse your grandma and do drugs in her basement, maybe focus on the grandma nursing, if you know what I mean. Also, don't be yourself, or at least don't be your corona quarantine version, walking around the house in a smelly t-shirt and no underwear. This also applies to digital interviews. Be on time and make sure that the technology will work and that your visual background, as long as any background noise, is both representative and non-invasive. This is an image of me working from home. Just kidding, that's my husband. This is me. The problem is, just like in dating, people hiring tend to have unrealistic hopes and dreams. They say that LinkedIn is reverse Tinder, where the hot girls pursue the geeks who tend to ghost them. And there's a truth to that. But maybe LinkedIn is just like Tinder in the sense that it fools people into thinking that the world is filled with beautiful and brilliant people. I mean, it is. But are they realistically interested in you or the position you are trying to fill? Which brings me to, I once worked at a place where the actual, believe it or not, working title for a job was superhero. I mean, it was a nice enough company, but a superhero? Was a superhero dying to come to work there? Of course, we all realized they didn't mean it literally. They weren't expecting a line of people showing up in capes. But even a superhero in the way that they meant it, which was a designer slash UX expert slash full stack developer, is stretching the imagination a little bit. I am not all those things, but if I was to fill that position, then in the end they probably would have been more than happy to have hired me, a fairly decent programmer who is not off the charts colorblind. You know, we all have to settle, don't we? So to all of you, but to the women especially, it never hurts to apply even though you don't have all the qualifications listed. Because just to make it clear, we are not hiring superheroes and there will be no capes. One clear difference between interviews and dates, though, is you don't need to play coy about being interested. Try to make it clear that you're interested in this particular position and company, and tell them why. Most companies are looking for somebody motivated that will stay for long. Make sure that you get the answers you need to be able to judge the offer if and when it comes. Questions are good as long as they are relevant. What if you do get a hard no? I recently evolved into not caring about many things that used to annoy and intimidate me, including caring less about this. I guess that is one perk of getting older. But with a little bit of practice, maybe you can get there earlier than I did. The secret for me was realizing that picking someone over someone else is hard. If you have many good applicants, you might resort to fairly random and vague criteria. Anything that seemed relevant at the time or just give you a good or bad feeling in the stomach. Because in the end of the day, you do have to choose, and it's a very big decision. Making the wrong hire can be very expensive for a company and even ruin it entirely. What if you don't end up getting an answer at all? These days, we do have a growing problem with ghosting. If this happens to you in dating or in a process, remember, it's not your fault. It's the other person that is a coward or just plain lazy. Regardless of how you get the bad news, remember, it might not have been about you. It might just be that the other applicant was perfect for the job and had tons more experience. There might even have been an internal applicant that was always meant to have the job. Just don't give yourself a hard time about it, because interviews are hard. It is hard to stay composed and say the right things when you're nervous. I once got so flustered in an interview that I forgot the age of my twins, and I did not get a job offer from them. They are 11, or was it 12? So you keep trying, all the while being kind and supportive to yourself, and eventually you made it to the last interviews and things are looking good. Now that you have an offer in sight, take the time to go through all that has been said so far. Was there any time that you felt uncomfortable, embarrassed, or that you felt that the interviewer was lying, being rude, or weird about something? Take a few moments to think about what this might mean about their management style or the company culture. I often ask the question, what do you look for in a manager, and what are you looking for in the next company? And I urge you to ask yourself this before you start any processes. Then at this point, circle back and take some time to check that this position is a good match for your abilities and dreams, or at the minimum, a step in the right direction. Whatever you do, try to make sure you work somewhere that values their people. What about the rest of your life? I always hate the how do you see yourself in 5 years' time question, because life change, people change, and this early on in your career, it's probably very hard to visualize. But working towards being able to answer this question, at least to yourself, is not a bad idea. Do you want to be a generalist, a specialist, front-end, back-end or full stack, manager or not manager, architect or tech lead? My advice here is to do as the pretty obsolete pop band of the 80s, Roxette, and listen to your heart. I told a friend once that if he hated his field of study, wasn't there a good chance he might also hate his profession? And sadly, this turned out to be accurate. I really believe that following your talent and your interests is always a good idea whenever possible. We might be very lucky with our chosen field, but every position under the sun has moments of deep boredom. Folding up your sleeves and doing a boring job well is a very important life skill to have. But I desperately urge you not to sentence yourself to boredom just to embellish your CV or for money you don't actually need. Because nobody knows what will happen in the future. But I am fairly sure that doing what you love and have an affinity for will always result in you doing a better job. Doing a good job might not guarantee your success in life, but it sure is a good start. So, you might wonder which of my advice was good and which was bad. Sadly, I can't tell you that, because in truth, they might all be bad for you. We're all different and we all make mistakes. We just have to keep making them and keep forgiving ourselves when it happens. And as long as you keep trying, you will be okay in the end. Do keep in touch. If you have any questions or just want to make friends, come find me afterwards here on our stand, reach out on LinkedIn or visit our career page, karriere.1881.no. Thank you.